should the Colts explore a trade partner for Michael Pittman Jr. before the season even starts, or at least next season? Look, Michael Pittman Jr. is being paid $20 million a year. That's wide receiver one money. He has not played like a wide receiver one. He has played good. He has been solid, but he hasn't been anything special. And he's made these big, flashy, go up, contested, exciting plays every once in a while. Yeah, they're fun, and he brings a good mentality to the locker room. He's a gritty player. He has a lot of toughness. He goes out there. He fights for his teammates. There is a lot to like about Michael Pittman. But there's a lot to like about the other guys in this room as well that are younger, and all three of them are still in the rookie deal. Now, Alec Pierce is going to want to be paid soon. So, look, after this year, I say the Colts go ahead and trade Michael Pittman Jr. If Michael Pittman goes out, balls out, has a crazy year, even better, because then you could get more for him. He's going to be a 28-year-old wide receiver heading into his prime. Trade him. And that's going to sound weird. Why am I, saying, the Colts of all teams have a consistent receiver, he's been pretty good, he's been reliable. Why trade him? Why are you saying to trade our best receiver that we've had since it's been difficult for the Colts to get, a reliable receiver that can stay healthy. T.Y. Hilton never had a partner in crime. Michael Pittman, didn't really have a partner in crime until now. He's actually got multiple guys by his side who are finally breaking out and helping his case. But look, Michael Pittman had 2 seasons over 1,000 receiving yards. Cool. He hasn't really put up, a lot of touchdowns. It's just he has not come into that wide receiver one role that you want him to come into. I think he's been a phenomenal role player, not like a depth role player. I mean like, a starter role player, like a wide receiver 2. He's been a great wide receiver 2 caliber of a player. You're paying him $20 million a year, so this is what you do. If he has a big year this year under Daniel Jones, which I think he could, I think you trade him. You get as much draft capital as you possibly could for a receiver going into his prime. He's being paid $20 million a year. I mean, which is a lot, but if he has a huge year, teams could look at that $20 million a year compared to, some of the best receivers in the league and look how much they are wide receiver ones, are the best in the league. They're making $40 million, close to 40 for a reason, but they can see maybe that being a bargain, a really damn good receiver. So get as much as you could out of him, and then you go ahead and you just let Alex Pierce, you let Josh Downs, and you let A.D. Mitchell loose. It's just, I think having Michael Pittman in the room is limiting these guys in a way. Now, like I said, I'm not saying Michael Pittman is not a good receiver. He's good. He's not great. He's not wide receiver 1 caliber. I think he's a very, very high-end wide receiver 2, maybe bottom of the bottom wide receiver 1. And you could go ahead and bring up the quarterback situation. I don't want to hear that bullshit. You know why? Because Josh Downs and Alec Pierce have both performed incredibly well under that same poor quarterback play. And you could go ahead and say that their numbers have been similar. So how are you going to say, how are you going to, be like to me, JDW, how are you going to say that these guys are better off when they've had similar numbers? Well, Josh Downs has shown a lot more, even though he hasn't had more numbers. Alec Pierce, we just saw what kind of a deep threat he can be. He's only getting better. So, and then you have A.D. Mitchell, who has a very high ceiling coming out of college, had a couple of character questions, but A.D. Mitchell is a guy that has an incredibly high ceiling. All 3 of these guys can let loose on this offense. Under Shane Steichen, I think Daniel Jones is going to be here for a couple years, and I think he's going to make the Colts good for a couple years. I say a Kirk Cousins type of a situation. I say Daniel Jones comes into his own in Indianapolis. I'm not saying he's going to be great, but I'm saying that he could be good enough to get the Colts to a couple of playoff runs, Maybe win a couple playoff games a couple years. Daniel Jones has the ability to elevate this offense. And he's got these weapons. And, I think Michael Pittman's going to feel it this year. I think Michael Pittman may have a career year. And that's why I'm saying you trade him, get as much as you could. And then you let these young, you trade him, get him out of the way. You pay Alec Pierce, a younger guy. And then you pay Josh Downs. And then you continue to ride it out with Downs and Pierce. We'll see if you keep A.D. Mitchell. You could always find a way if he turns out into his own too. I mean, there are so many better options. There's so many options if you, let Downs, Pierce, and A.D. Mitchell take over the reins of the top three options. I think you're stunting A.D. Mitchell's growth by having Michael Pittman. Because A.D. Mitchell isn't going to get as much time unless someone gets injured. Because those are four receivers. The Colts aren't big on four receivers. They like to run the football. They like to play smash mouth football. So A.D. Mitchell's ability to develop and grow into his own is going to be stunted. So trade a guy like Michael Pittman Jr., and I know it sounds like, what do you call it? It kind of sounds hypocritical. It kind of sounds like I'm not making sense, but I sure am. It may be easy just to look at it and be like, why would you want to trade Michael Pittman Jr.? He's our guy since T.Y. Hill, and he was the next guy, but he just hasn't proven to be that wide receiver one. Josh Downs and Pierce have made so many more big plays than Pittman has. And they've had the same quarterback situation. And now with Tyler Warren in the mix, heck, he's only going to help these receivers grow. He's only going to help them get better, which you could argue it's going to help Pittman too. But point is, Pittman's going to be 28, 2 years off of 30. Pierce is going to be much younger. Get Pierce on a contract. Get Downs on a contract. He's going to be a year after Pierce. And then, a year after that, you have A.D. Mitchell. So if you want to, there are so many more options if you trade Pittman. There's so much more flexibility. There really is. And I think trading Michael Pittman Jr. is a good option for the Colts after this year. Let Pierce slot into that. I think Pierce, Downs, they're both capable of being wide receiver one caliber. And better than Michael Pittman wide receiver one caliber, if you know what I'm trying to say. Pittman has been good. He hasn't been great. Downs and Pierce can be great, and they can take over games like Pittman really hasn't shown he can yet. He hasn't shown that he could do it. He hasn't taken that wide receiver one spot by the horns. He struggled to get in the end zone. He struggled to score touchdowns, and you're going to be a big body receiver. Well, you better figure that out. And I understand your quarterback situation has been good, but other wide receivers have a much higher ceiling than Pittman, if you ask me. I even think A.D. Mitchell has a higher ceiling than Michael Pittman. And it's no disrespect on Pittman. He is the player. He is who he is. He's a good player. I'm not throwing any shade. I'm not being disrespectful. But it's the NFL. And when you have when you have bigger and better opportunities, you go for it. If you could have other receivers on cheaper deals for a year or two, maybe invest that Pittman money elsewhere. I'd rather pay Pierce and Downs than let one of those go and keep Pittman, who is going to be getting older at that point. You know what I'm saying? The Colts are a team that can grow talent. This is what Chris Ballard is beginning to do. He's getting so much talent in there that you're going to have to make decisions like these. And it would suck to see Pittman go. He's been a good locker room guy. But it's the NFL. When you have bigger and better opportunities, you go for it, and you don't hesitate. So I could see Pittman being a trade option next year. Do I think the Colts will do it? Probably not. But I really think the way I'm talking here and what I'm thinking is a great idea. It's a great way to go. Or maybe you ride it out with Pittman, a little longer than that second year. Maybe you take it to the third year. Maybe someone doesn't work out or something happens, but really, you never know. You never know, but I'd take these other guys' potential over what Pittman is now. So I keep going on, but I'll keep saying the same things over and over again. But this is kind of my like idea on the wide receiver room. You have Anthony Gould. You have a couple of other guys back there that are like kickoff guys. So yeah, there's my quick thoughts and my little proposal, my idea. I want to hear what you guys think about this. Do you guys agree with me? I think AD Mitchell, Downs, Pierce, they have higher ceilings, and the situations and the scenarios that I explain, I'll take it. I think that's a good idea. These three receivers, you kind of, Pittman's to the point where you could only get so much better. He's 27. He's going to be 28 in the beginning of October. So he's to a point where you can only get so much better at this point. While Pierce has had a breakout year, Downs is in for a big breakout year himself. Daniel Jones is going to elevate these receivers like we haven't seen because he has experience. He knows where to go with the football. And I think Daniel Jones is going to elevate this offense. He's going to be here for a couple years, and we're going to be a playoff team the next couple years. And you know what? I say this year might be our best chance to win the AFC South in quite some time. So you guys let me know what you think. I'm going to get out of here before I keep saying the same thing over and over again. Just a different idea, different proposal I wanted to talk to you guys about and, just kind of throw out there. Let me know what you guys think. This is Jason bringing you the Horseshoe Hustle. Appreciate you guys for tuning in or for our Colts content here. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you.